A funnel is just a path. It moves someone from not knowing you very well to knowing you, trusting you, getting wins, to then being ready for the next step with you. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Quiet Leaders Podcast. Today's episode is another behind the scenes look at what actually works to move businesses forward. And that work that happens quietly, strategically, and often without anyone realizing how much thought went into it. So a few episodes ago, I shared a behind the scenes training on building a virtual event. And one of the things I mentioned in that episode was how everything started with a project workflow. And today I want to pull back the curtain on another piece of the back end that I spend a lot of time on clients with, and that is funnels. Now, funnels can sound intimidating, they can feel really technical, they can also feel very internet marketer-ish. But at their core, funnels are actually pretty simple. So today, I'm going to walk through how I actually think about funnels, how I approach building them with clients, and why simplicity matters more than complexity here. So this episode is especially for you if you're the one building offers behind the scenes, you support clients with launches, programs, or marketing, or you're starting to realize that you're already doing integrator level work, even if you don't call yourself that yet. So what a funnel really is. Before we get into the steps of building a funnel workflow, I am going to zoom out for a second. Because at its simplest, a funnel is just a path. It moves someone from not knowing you very well to knowing you, trusting you, getting wins, to then being ready for the next step with you. Now, people sometimes describe this as moving from cold to warm to hot, but honestly, I like to think of it as more as experience-based. A good funnel lets someone experience your voice, experience your thinking, and experience small wins before you ever ask them to commit to something bigger. And this is where a lot of funnels go wrong. It's because they start with tactics before they even start with the intention. So just like a virtual event, the very first thing we do when building a funnel is to look at the end result. So before we even touch the tech, before we write any emails, before we design any pages, we ask, where do we ultimately want somebody to end up? And for many of my clients, that endpoint is their signature program, their signature offer. So every funnel we build should support that outcome. So instead of asking, what freebie should I make? What should I sell for $27? We ask, what does someone need to know before they're ready for this offer? What kind of win do they need? What mindset shift needs to happen? And what problem needs to be clarified? Once we know that, we can then work backwards. Now, this is such an integrator move, by the way, where we always start with the vision first and then work our way backwards. So another thing that we look at early on is pillars. Now, you may have heard of pillars before from various marketing people or social media people, but most businesses have somewhere between 3 to 6 core topics that they consistently talk about or help solve. For example, one of my pillars is pricing, and specifically helping integrators price retainers confidently and sustainably. So if pricing is a pillar, then a funnel might support that pillar. So that helps us answer, what is the right entry point? What's the right free win? And what problem are we solving first? Now, funnels work best when they're connected to a specific pillar, not when we're trying to solve everything all at once. And that's where this leads us into the free opt-in or the freebie, the free thing, or it's also called a lead magnet. And this is what most people do think of first. They think of, what am I going to offer? How do I get people on my list? And they start with the free thing. Now, I mentioned a bunch of different names for this: freebie, lead magnet, opt-in. All of these words mean the same thing. So you may hear, there's so many different terms in the space that it doesn't matter what you're calling it. And this is really where somebody would raise their hand and say, yes, I want help with this. So typically what this looks like to set up a freebie, you're going to need a landing page, and you're going to need a name and email section where they put their name in and their email. And then they have to click a button to then submit that. And then from there, they'll be taken to that resource that they're opting in for, or it's delivered to their email. And this free thing should solve one problem, create one clear win, and really point them towards that bigger solution. So we're not trying to overwhelm with all these different things. We're not trying to impress them. We just want to help create that one win for them, create that initial experience so they can start to learn who we are, how we help, and all of that. So after the opt-in happens, this is where we usually introduce a tripwire. Now, a tripwire is a low-priced offer that complements what they just opted into. So if they just learned how to price something, maybe the next step is a tool that helps them implement it. And this usually shows up on the thank you page. So for example, when you put your name and your email in, you hit the submit button, then it takes you to this thank you page. And at the top of that page, it will say like, your download is on the way, or but wait, you might also love this. And from there, it will have information on that complimentary item, and then they can check out to purchase said item. So another thing, this could be a workshop to help them implement the free thing that they opted into. And then on that checkout, there could also be what's called an order bump. So you've probably experienced this where you're going to purchase something and then there's a little blurb on the checkout screen where it says, check this to add this to your order. And usually these are low ticket. These are like $7, $14, something super easy for them to just add on. And I'll also mention with the tripwire, usually these are anywhere from, again, $7 up to $47. These are easy yes offers. So it's not going to be a $2,000 product on this tripwire page. So I wanted to make that clear as well. So these order bumps really add value and add that extra momentum to what you're already giving them. Now from there, sometimes there's another upsell after the checkout. So say they're like, yes, I love this complimentary offer. I want that. It makes sense. They put their information in, they purchase, and then that thank you page for that offer is then an upsell after the checkout. So the key question here is always, what's genuinely going to help them move forward? So that's the next step, is in this upsell. Now, doing all those things, what would be the next best step for them? And that's what the upsell is. And again, an upsell could be like $97. It wouldn't be this crazy expensive thing, but it could be up to $500. And then from there, we talk about the nurture and the long game, because this is where it really matters. Like, this is what we're trying to get people to. We want to have them opt in so they get to experience you. They get to learn how you work and what problem you solve. Or, as the marketers say, you're turning someone cold to then warm to then hot, so then they come into your program. Now, nurturing is for the long game. Someone may opt into your freebie, but not join your signature offer for a whole nother year. So that is why it's important to consistently be bringing people into your circle, because it does take time to nurture people, especially now, because we want to make sure that the things we are opting into, it makes sense for what we're doing. And it's a real person, because there's just so much information and knowledge out there. And as I said, not everyone buys right away, and that's totally okay. Once someone has gone through your funnel, they're now on your email list. They've experienced your work. They've gotten some wins already from you. And from there, you can then nurture them. You can invite them to your next offer. Or maybe you're offering a workshop on something or a challenge or something that makes sense for them. You now have people to invite to this thing. And you continue the relationship. Now, this is where automation and visibility do play a part, because if you're using a system like Go High Level, you can actually track where the people are in your funnel. So you can see the people who have opted in, the people who have bought the tripwire, the people who went on to purchase the upsell, and the people who didn't. And this data is really gold, because also you can tell if everybody is opting into the tripwire, but nobody wanted the upsell, then maybe we need to tweak our upsell or tweak the messaging on it. So data always gives us more clarity. Now, finally, let's talk about the piece that a lot of people skip, and that is the workflow. And this is where us integrators, we shine behind the scenes, because a funnel workflow is going to outline every page someone sees, every email they receive, and every decision point. So you will clearly see the landing page, the thank you page, the checkout, the emails, the tags, the automations. And I like to write all this out in a Google Doc, step by step, and in sentence form. So I will say, like, they go to this landing page with the full link. Then the next step is they go to a thank you page with that link. And we show the email that they receive once they've opted in. We show the tags that get added to them and what that then triggers in our automation system. And this matters because if you don't have this documented, it's really difficult to figure out what's actually happening inside of your system. And even if you're bringing new people onto the team, there's no way they're going to know without having to spend time like digging through all of your stuff to figure out what happens when somebody does this thing. So this workflow really gives both the visionary clarity, the team alignment, and then also it allows you to make changes in the future. It's so much easier to go to the workflow, see what's happening, and make adjustments there first, and then you know exactly where to go to update it in your systems. And also, the visionary should not be living in all the details, in the back end, in the automations, because that's not their expertise. That's where the workflow comes in. They can still see the flow that the customer goes through without having to try to figure out these automation things, and then they could accidentally click something, and we don't want that. So that is another reason why workflows are great, because it's not only used for yourself and the team, but also the visionary as well. Now, I also want to point out that I am not this funnel expert per se, but what I do call myself is more of a simplicity expert. Because right now, people are overwhelmed. They don't really want to see these massive sales pages that used to like really work, and they don't want all this extra fluff. Instead, they want clarity. They want real humans. They want easy yeses. They want to know that they're going to get a result from something. And funnels, they don't need to be complicated to work. They just need to be intentional. And that's really the lens that I bring to this work, that us integrators bring to this work. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I already do this kind of thinking, I just don't have the language or the structure for it yet, that is exactly why I want to invite you to my Integrator Bootcamp, which is happening on March 11th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central. So this year we did condense it into one powerful focused day so that it's easier to block off that time and fully immerse yourself in this. And I'm going to be breaking down what integrators actually do. I'm going to show the real behind the scenes workflows that I'm creating, and I'm going to give you that clarity on how to step into this role confidently. And if you attend live, there's going to be giveaways for those that show up on that day. Also, other incentives for being on live. But of course, if you cannot attend at that time, I will be sending out a replay as well, but then you won't get access to those giveaways. So highly recommend showing up live, because then you also have the chance to ask any questions you may have. So if you're already doing this work, this bootcamp will really help you own it. And you can sign up through the link that is in the show notes. And as always, I want to thank you for being here, for doing this quiet work behind the scenes, and for leading with integrity. I will see you inside the next episode and hopefully inside of the bootcamp.